Mr. Jack Park, good morning.
Bonjour.
Hey, Jack. Hey, Barry. So I don't know if, Jack, I know you wouldn't have seen this, but Barry, did you see that I invited someone new to this group today?
No, I didn't see that. You had
Well,
posted something on Facebook that by the time I looked at it, it was no longer readable or available.
no, I posted it in the Messenger group. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's what I mean in Facebook Messenger.
Anyway,
There was
just
something there was something in Facebook Messenger that says message expired. This message is no longer available.
hmm,
And
no,
I don't know what it was, but I
So who
presumably
did you
that's what you're
invite?
talking about.
anyway. So, you know me, Jack, you probably less so, but Barry is aware that I do post a lot of abominable information and events and opinions regarding the current administration and what this country is headed towards. So, I also attended the No Kings protest a couple weeks ago, a couple Saturdays ago. And so, as a result of that activity, I've been connected with a number of different Facebook people. And this particular person said, very similar things in her posts. It said, I wish there was a forum where we could talk about stuff like this and really, understand it. And so I said, hey, some of us actually addressed this and other topics. I didn't say this is the only thing we spoke about on Saturdays and Sundays. And so she was very enthusiastic, said she wanted to join. I sent her the link on Thursday, and I reminded her this morning. Her name is Beth Weaver, and we'll see whether or not she actually joins today, just in case she does arrive. Just wanted to.
Yep. The Beth Weaver message is the one that message expired and it's unclickable for me.
Does it have no text at all from you? Because usually those are forwarded items.
Well, if you look in the meeting chat,
Uh-huh.
you'll see that the URL is Beth Weaver, and then underneath the message, Facebook says message expired. This message is no longer available.
That's strange. Okay, that could be because it was a post that she had made on her wall. So if she took it down or made it private or something, then they would not be forwardable as a link. This is one of the Doug Engelbart tests for information sharing, right? Whether you can actually share links and that can actually work well. So anyway, turns out that link is no longer visible to you.
But yeah, whatever it is, it's inaccessible to me, if not to anybody else.
All right. All right. Hey, Stace. Okay. So, Stacey, I just was explaining in a few seconds that potentially a woman named Beth Weaver might join us today. But we'll see whether or not that actually happens.
And she is.
She is someone who got engaged with me on Facebook regarding things like the current Trump administration and No Kings and Trump and that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, how's your week been? How's the last 144 days or whatever it's been? Hours, I mean.
So I woke up yesterday. I had tickets to go to a show, and I woke up in the middle of the night with a really, really bad migraine. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it. It turns out my show was canceled. But do you want to know why my show was canceled? Because the band got stuck in Heathrow because of visa issues.
Yeesh. Whoa.
Unbelievable.
Wait, they're coming from the US, right? So is Britain
No, no, no. They were
coming
they
into
were
the US?
coming from Heathrow. Yeah. They were coming here.
What country were they coming from?
Is in Heathrow, the UK?
Yeah,
All right,
it's
sorry.
London. It's
I haven't
London.
looked it up yet.
That doesn't mean they were
For
British.
some reason, I had this image of Stacey in London.
They could have been transiting.
That would be nice. I've never been there.
Oh, you never been to London?
Nope, I've never been to Europe. Anybody wants to invite me out there?
Well, just FYI, I think Heathrow is one of the worst airports you could actually be stuck in. Man, I was
Oh,
stuck in Heathrow in a line, standing in line for over 3 hours, close to 3.5 hours one time. And I thought, getting there 4 hours ahead of time was plenty of time. Well, it turned out to be barely enough.
Well, I just think it's terrible that we're having issues like that, that a band can't get into our country.
Well, they could be smuggling bad ideas.
But I was happy because I couldn't, I was so sick. And yes, I feel better today, just weak.
Well, that's an interesting check-in. Too bad you didn't have the entertainment you wanted, but indicative of our times, perhaps. I'm actually surprised how few people realize how close to autocratic dictatorship we really are. People
Yes.
really don't understand. We're three senators away from saving this country, but otherwise, we're just gone.
I think we're fucked no matter what.
Oh, thanks, Barry.
Well, I'm old enough to be cynical now.
I guess you've earned it.
Well, with 80 years of experience and observation, I've become cynical.
Hmm.
I've seen enough bad government and bad decision making by people in power at all levels, all the way down to the board of trustees of my condo.
Oh, just to give you a sense of where I am. And Jack, jump in anytime because I know you haven't said anything yet today. Um, but just a quick update on my part. I've been looking at properties overseas, right? And now I've been looking at the visa process for going to these various different places. And it turns out, even though the properties themselves may be affordable and look really attractive, man, some of these visa processes and costs are pretty dang restrictive and not particularly smooth, unless you pay a lot of money. that's 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 an interesting phenomenon. Turns out, there's all this red tape and bureaucratic paperwork, whatever. But if you pay enough money, there's special programs to sidestep all that. So I'm finding more. Anyway, I don't think I want to need no more than that. Jack, what's on your mind?
Not much today.
Hopefully that's a good thing.
I've been reading, I was reading an article in the New York Times this morning about that Air India crash.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't that a week
I
ago?
mean, I mean, to me, my first thought was the fuckers forgot to put the flaps out. But then I found a YouTube of a 777 captain who said that's not possible. That Boeing airplanes will yell and scream at you if you're not in the proper takeoff configuration.
Right.
So the flaps were out, and so then he comes back with a second one and says, "Oh, listen to this sound. That's not the sound of an airplane. That's the sound of a ram air turbine." And they highlight a bit of a picture that shows that yes, there was this little windmill that popped out of the belly of the airplane, and it only does that if there's catastrophic engine failure. So New York Times was playing with that today, and
They
What?
they
don't have the black box yet?
they've got the black box, but nobody's talking about the data on it. But the flight recorder, the one that's the satellite based, is only every 10, 15 seconds.
Oh,
Uh, it showed that it was in the normal takeoff position and it did everything right. And there was no yaw in the liftoff, so obviously it was no asymmetric thrust, which means, and the pilot says we've lost power. So it's pretty clear there was a catastrophic engine failure on both engines. Now, each engine takes its fuel from different tanks. So, how would you contaminate both tanks?
And no other aircraft on the ground getting refueling from the same source.
Right. So it doesn't to me sound like contaminated fuel, but it does leave open a lot of other questions that the flight data recorder will eventually provide some insight into.
Wait, are you saying then that there's now a heightened plausibility that it might have been tampered with?
No, it could have been a freak accident or whatever. The initial pilot, the 777 pilot said, "Look," he said, "the landing gear is still down." But the Times analysis shows a different view of the airplane that shows that the landing gear was on its way up. It had started to retract and then stopped.
Oh,
So that means hydraulics had gone out.
Well, you would think there was a checklist for stuff like that before takeoff.
wasn't there a power failure on a previous leg of that same aircraft coming in?
Not that I'm aware of. Not
I
of
thought
the
I
triple
thought that
seven.
I thought a passenger who was on the inbound flight, that same um, equipment, said that there was a brief power failure in the
Okay,
cabin entertainment system went out.
so that is serious. How do we want to connect that back to a topic we might want to discuss here?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, there somebody had in fact the guy that survived the crash said something about the cabin entertainment thing wasn't working.
Yeah, that was what I was just saying from a previous leg of that same aircraft inbound.
Hmm.
So there might have been, so they might have attempted to address the power failure. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Or if you do fix it, make sure you fixed it right. They might have not properly fixed whatever the issue was with the power failure issue. Fuses blowing or whatever it is.
It just strikes me that Boeing used to be a symbol of pride for the Pacific Northwest. I know a lot of people, especially here on the island, who've been lifers at Boeing, who are proud of Boeing. Basically, they're proud of the quality standard until it got bought out by McDonnell Douglas.
Exactly right.
And that's when shit started happening.
Yep.
Because McDonnell Douglas values and culture meant that quality went out the window.
The McDonnell Douglas is run by bean counters, and
Yep.
Boeing was made by engineers.
And so
Yep.
this is the parallel that I'm thinking, well, that took like a decade for that to happen. But now look at what happened to the country. This country used to have a set of values that used to be respectable around the world. And in much less than a decade, we're already a shithole country.
Again, it's bean counters.
Yeah, it's
Not
Everybody,
worldwide.
criminals.
the thing is that all of the games that the current administration is playing are geared to help the rich get richer.
See, that's what I don't understand. Why does the president want to make rich people richer unless clearly he's getting a kickback?
Yes, of
He
course.
is. We know that
Now, if
already.
that is the case, why isn't it obvious to track down and prosecute?
That's the question I've been asking is
Why?
there
Why
is
is
so
it
much
so not so obvious that we got 535 people in Congress that are basically just ignoring that, plus the Treasury Department, plus the Justice Department, plus the rest of the administration, plus the executive branch, and everybody's just going along with it like, oh, well, we voted him in, so therefore, blah, blah, blah. I
Have I
don't.
mentioned lately that we're fucked?
Yeah. Anyway, hi, Kayla.
Hi, Sam. Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hello.
Kayla.
Will somebody lay something more happiness endearing on the table?
Um, that's a difficult question to come up with a quick answer.
Like
Give me a
red hot
Give me a couple of years, maybe I'll come up with an answer.
Ah. By the way, Kayla, Stacey was just saying that she was going to have a blast of a time last night, with tickets to this great event, but got canceled. Two reasons, I guess. One, the band couldn't get into the country from London.
Oh, yeah,
Problem.
yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry.
more, more.
Somebody else told me something like that, unfortunately, because they had prepaid for some tickets somewhere here in Los Angeles, and then unfortunately the show got canceled because they're from another country.
Does anybody know if performers and artists are still staying away from, is it Lincoln Center or Kennedy Center?
Kennedy Center.
Kennedy Center in
That's the one that Trump fired the board and made himself the president.
and
Yeah, people are like, fuck this shit. See ya.
So a bunch of well-to-do senators went and rented a room at the Kennedy Center that's legal for them to do, and they put on a gay pride show
hmm,
at the Kennedy Center, right, thumbing Trump in the nose. Elizabeth Warren was one of them.
Yeah.
all I'm saying is we just need three senators, and we could potentially block that big ugly bill. But I don't yet see it. Why is it not happening? Why do people not
Politics.
understand the Constitution? Why do they not understand the oaths of office that they took?
I think the Alaskan senator made it they're afraid.
Yeah.
Murkowski, yeah.
Fear and ignorance are ruling the day. The twin dragons of fear and ignorance.
They're afraid of being primaried. So
I think more than that, Jack.
there is that you're right. There is the primary in New York, which has set off a lot of fireworks.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess holding on to your $170,000 a year job is way more important than the integrity of this country and the well-being of 350 million other co-citizens.
I just really have to disagree. I don't think at this point that it's really about the job anymore. We just had people assassinated. There's a greater fear than losing your job at this point.
Yeah. People of integrity are opting out of going into government because going into government is not a decent career anymore. They'd rather go into something where they can have a little more success than government. And so incompetent people are ending up filling the void and going into government. We have all these incompetent people who are perfectly happy to run for office.
Yeah, incompetence is one thing that I could potentially put up with, but the out and out criminality of it goes far beyond that.
Well, ethics and education kind of are correlated. Incompetent people tend to be less ethical than competent people most of the time.
I'm going to take 10 seconds and check whether oh, she says she's not able to be on a call today, but she will be tomorrow. She had company from out of town come unexpectedly this morning. Okay, all right.
Yeah. I did put in a link to her Facebook main page in case anybody wants to,
Kayla, you may not
the
have been
background on her.
saying it, but Beth Weaver, some new connection that happened this past week on Facebook, was interested in forums, which I interpreted to mean forums like this, where these conversations could take place. So she just messaged me and said she'll be here tomorrow, not today.
Yeah.
Got it.
That would be cool. We will then have, hopefully, a more balanced male-female representation.
Mm-hmm.
She's clearly very distressed over all the crapola that's going on in our government, ICE and all that kind of stuff.
I continue to think if you're not distressed, you're not paying attention, right? That's not my words, but they're
But
true.
I mean, she's vocal about it. That's her main focus of topic interest.
Yeah.
It's not just a side thing.
Anyway, I keep trying to figure out what else we could talk about. It always keeps coming back to this.
I've been having some fun with Gemini lately, the Google AI thing. I, because as I age, my vocabulary recall is declining. I thought I would start spending more time doing these word games on the, like crosswords and all these other word games where you exercise your vocabulary. And I found one that's very interesting. It's called Categories. It's a game on the Washington Post on their websites. And some of them turn out to be very hard. They give you a bunch of words. You have to figure out some way to make them all belong to a common category. And I can do about half of them, and then there's a few I just get stuck on. So I went to Google Gemini to see if I could, get some help. And it turns out that it's really good on trivia. So it can recognize, for example, song titles or movie titles or associated with some actor or band that I wouldn't know. Although in other cases it's no better than I am. But it was very interesting to sort of put our heads together, sort of my head and its head, and have these conversations because it completely understood the concept of the categories game and was then just struggling as much as I was trying to come up with ways to solve the riddle. It's like having somebody, right next to you there, who's essentially as good as you are at thinking, but also has more trivia knowledge than you do.
See, to me, that sounds interesting, although it's the simplest form of AI. It's barely above search. It's just single association, right?
Yep.
It's not reasoning across a number of different stages. So that's the kind of thing search a little bit better, search an LLM adds a lot to that.
Yeah.
Would actually excel at. So
it's conversational because it knows the context of the riddle you're trying to solve. It understands the concept. So it has persistent context.
Yeah. I've also been relatively happy with Gemini. I have, after 30 days of trial with Gemini, have decided to pay for Gemini. So it's the very first AI engine that I've paid for more than just a single month.
Did you find the upgrade worth the?
Yes, the upgrade is very interesting. Yeah, that's what got me interested. I got the upgrade notice about a month ago, and that's when I started trying it. Stacey?
What are they charging?
Stacey?
Well, how much you could tell them how much they're charging.
I forget. It's something like $20 a month. I think
It's not cheap.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah,
Super
I
cheap.
had a question. Does anybody know of anything on the market that you could like upload a video to and say, make me a clip from minute 1 to minute 3? I mean, it sounds like such an easy thing to do, and it would be so enabling, I can't tell you. And since I've never found a person to be that enabling, although that should have been easy, I was wondering if there's something on the market.
Eric might know about those. Because he does that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I gotta believe it's out
Tell
there.
tomorrow and ask Eric.
I don't do it myself, so I don't actually find out which one actually enables it. I do it manually on YouTube because that sort of stuff is easy on YouTube.
It's not easy for me. It takes a lot of effort. I've done it in the past, but it's not easy.
Yeah. The problem with all that is it's conceptually easy, but these files are big. So it takes a long time to upload, a long time to find exactly the right snipping point, and then a long time for the thing to re-render. So it's conceptually not difficult, but manually it's a pain in the ass because it takes time. That's really
I have a correspondent. He was the guy who ran the Science Museum area where I was a volunteer. He uploaded a still photo of him and his wife on his anniversary. And then he asked AI to turn into a movie of them kissing, and it did. He posted that on Facebook. And if I find the link and if it's public, You might ask him how he did that. But I got to go back and find the link for you and see if he made it public. But it was very interesting. I mean, it really looked like it was an actual video of him kissing his wife, just from a still photo of them, facing the camera.
And let me just go back to what Sam was saying for a minute about how, uploading everything. Imagine though, if there were one central place where it was all uploaded, then we could share that and the videos are already uploaded. So let's say it was this call and this call is uploaded, but we could all use it. It's already there.
Well, other than my procrastination, most of these calls are up on YouTube. So it would make sense for me that either YouTube or some augmentation on YouTube or some third party that worked on YouTube made that available. I would expect that. In fact, if I search for it, I would be surprised if it didn't already exist. That reminds me though. You guys remember Tammy and Harry?
Of course.
I visited them in Vancouver several years ago, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. And there's a beautiful place right by the water. There's a path that goes from above. It's a winding path that circles around and comes around and comes down right to this walkway, a path that's really near the water. And the path has a little, I don't know, a little concrete curb that's probably about a foot tall. So they had preceded before me down the path. They were both up on the curb. They were looking longingly into each other's eyes. And I thought, wow, what a great moment. So I brought out my camera and I was walking down this path. I kept my camera on them as I walked and made the circle. And I turned around and I put the sun directly behind them so that, it was like very picturesque. And it looks like it was AI generated. It looks, like it would be something from a wedding movie. It's really phenomenal. Uh, anyway, they were really happy with that video, and I was happy I was able to get that video for them. That's the flip side of what you had just said, Barry. Anyway, all right.
Barry, that sounds like a fun game to play with people. The game that you were playing with the categories. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the games that are on the websites, there's an option to play them with a partner, both of them the same game. I haven't tried that because I don't know anybody who had a common interest at the same time.
I'll play. If you ever want to play, I'll play.
I posted a picture of that link from Dan Noren, and in tiny letters at the upper right, it says DVID AI. Maybe that's it. You have to ask I'm going to ask Google Gemini, what's DVID AI, and see if it answers. What is, because I think that's probably what he used, since it's got a watermark on the video. Next generation AI powered content creation platform that transforms inputs into high quality digital content, videos, and images. Now let's see it. And so evidently that's what he must have used, DVID AI. So it doesn't say, Gemini says that's what it does, but it doesn't say what it costs, if it's free or not. What I'll do is I'll copy that. It's too long to put in chat, but I'll put it in Messenger for you. Go to Messenger here. Stacey.
Thank you.
There we go. So you can find out if that's a free, but chances are it's not free, but you can go to the website and see.
I mean, I don't know if it's already clear, but I'm really resentful of AI to begin with. I don't think AI should be used as anything but a research assistant, a glorified secretary, a slave. That's how I feel about AI.
I mean, we've been using computers to augment our cognition for what, 70 years now or something like that.
Can I ask you a question on that, Stacey?
Sure.
If it weren't posed as threatening people's jobs, would you have the same feeling?
I think I'm more concerned with it threatening people's reality.
Yeah, that too. I find it really hard to believe myself that guys like Zuckerberg and even Amazon and other places are saying 25 to 30% of their code now is AI generated, as if that's a good thing. Now,
That I don't have a problem with.
that, well, being in the software business, I do wonder because I do wonder how the quality standards are being kept. But it also suggests to me there's a lot of busy work, just
Yeah,
plain mundane busy work
yeah. It's
in
tedious,
software.
tedious and error prone.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have a problem with it doing that. I have a problem with the doing things that there might actually be people who would like to do it,
You know, like art.
like art.
Yeah. My daughter feels very strongly. She says, AI, generative AI for art is the death of creativity in art. And she has spent like 15 years, maybe 20 years learning how to draw very skillfully.
A couple of years ago, when I was working with Pete and Jerry on, we were calling it the Marley Project, I came across an old email, and I was telling Pete that for what we were setting up, I did not want AI to be able to be used for art for certain things, just for the purposes of what we were setting up. And I had a reason for that. And I see now more than ever that I was right and that it shouldn't have happened.
Can I ask you another question on that? I remember having a conversation with you guys maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago about music and about how music, a lot of what passes for music today, to me, doesn't qualify, for me at least, because it doesn't do anything with my feelings. It doesn't do anything for my emotions. It doesn't do anything to actually tug at me. It's just a bunch of, sound and noise.
Yep.
And I'm not excluding classical music from that. There's a lot of classical music, quote unquote, that does nothing for me. Okay. And there are experimentations in audio and sound and instrumentation and time and everything else. But if it doesn't mean anything and it doesn't pull at you as a human being, to me, I don't know. Call it sound, but don't call it music. So I'm thinking, does that apply to people who are way more involved in, let's say, the visual arts, which I'm not, but definitely in the audio arts, I feel that way. So that would be the part that I would think is missing. And I don't see how GPTs and LLMs and AGIs can get there without life experience. They can probably pretend pretty well and probably, improving year over year, but they can't really bring it. So that's where I see a gap. Over.
Yeah,
Think
I noticed. Oh, go ahead, Stacey.
I was just going to say that I think what comes up for me is why. I need to know the why is something being done. Over. Go ahead, Barry.
Um, I don't know if this is true in general, but I notice as I age, and I'm 80 now, that less and less things provide emotional reactions. That I become more and more stoic is the wrong word, unreactive to things that when I was younger I was much more reactive to. And so I think that you become jaded on a lot of things that are, at one time things were interesting or fascinating or intriguing, and then they become old hat, and it's harder and harder to find things which one finds interesting, exciting, arousing with age. And music is one of those things that I used to react to music much more, and now almost nothing generates any strong emotion in me, with maybe just a very few small exceptions, which are intractable sociological problems like bad government, where you can be upset, but there's nothing effective that one can do except bitch about it. For example, I've lost my sense of smell, so food has almost no flavor for me anymore. It's just nutrition. There's no joy in eating because it's just taste on the tongue, no flavor in the in the nose. And a lot of activities I don't get. It's like the song "I Can't Get No Satisfaction," which the Rolling Stones did, in the middle of their career. Well, less and less things, give me satisfaction. And it gets worse as I age. And I suspect that's not just idiosyncratic to me. I mean, look at your pets. Your pets get very excited when they're puppies or kitties, and then they become sort of, what's the word, lethargic as they get older. Nothing excites them.
I think for you, Barry, I suspect that some of it has to do with the element of surprise. I don't think that you're surprised by things anymore, and I
Yeah,
think that that fed you a lot.
that's right. What I'm surprised by is the incompetence of people who are supposedly competent. The misconceptions and the misdiagnoses and things, because now I'm more attuned to the phenomenon of people supposedly in power, supposedly knowledgeable, are making idiotic mistakes, and I'm much more aware of those. But I just shake my head.
I'm surprised that you ever supposed they were competent or knowledgeable.
I didn't have enough. I didn't do the research, or I didn't have enough knowledge to know for a fact that they didn't know what they were talking about. But you heard that quote the other day from Trump that Israel and Iran don't know what the fuck they're doing. Here's the guy who's the worst, most incompetent person who is using the same, um, insight or the same diagnosis that nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yes, I heard that.
Well, it was on camera. He said it in
Yeah,
Europe.
no, I heard it. I heard it.
So this is not pushback, Barry, but it is an alternate perspective. When's the last time you woke up to see the sunrise?
Well, from my bedroom, I actually can't see the sunrise because there's stuff in the way of the. I can see it; it gets light, but I can't see the actual sunrise from my bedroom window,
Does it
just
hold any?
because of the layout of the condo and the trees and everything. So the answer is years, because I would have to be out, you know, camping or something, which I haven't, you know, been out on vacation any place where that would have even been possible for. I haven't gone. I haven't. I mean, I did go to. I did go to Vancouver, but I was still in an apartment where there wasn't any view out the window anyway. So the answer is probably not since I was last sailing in the Caribbean. I'm going to say.
Barry, you're very well read, so I'm sure you've come across this. But there is a point of view that says, I can pick up anything that I've actually seen before, right? And look at it as if I was seeing it for the very first time. And that sense of wonder, that sense of lack of labels, lack of prejudice, lack of prejudgment is a mental state that sometimes is called childlike,
Yeah, exactly. Childlike
right?
curiosity.
And it's also a great way to go through life.
Yeah.
And what I sense is you take a look at this and say, I've seen it before. Or you take a look at that and say, I've already done that. Or I've seen the sun. Yeah, I've seen the sun before. That's the sense I get when I hear you speak, Barry. And I'm
Yeah.
saying there's a sense of childlike wonder that you could try over.
Yeah, in the fix-it shop, we get items in, a lot of which are unique. And they're the ones that are most interesting to work on, but they also are the hardest ones to make any progress on. The ones that you know how to fix, you go, oh, here's another same old, same old. So there's, nothing to, I mean, I did do a couple of jobs that were novel for me in terms of the technical details of the component parts, but they weren't that exciting. They were still pretty straightforward and not that intriguing. But yeah, and I take apart something to fix that I've never taken apart before. At least you have some motivation to proceed, and it's not just I can do this with my eyes closed.
Maybe I'll ship a few items to you.
Well, the other Sam sent me this great big Hewlett Packard machine, which had a feature which I can't get the software for because it doesn't run the software, for it. So the wonderful feature it has is not a feature anymore.
I bet you Eric could find it for you. Eric's pretty good at that.
Yeah, you have to go back to the original version of Windows 8 because the drivers don't exist after Windows 8.
I will bet you a quarter that Eric could find it for you.
Well, if he could find it, and if I could install Windows 8, I could get that feature back. But it's not a feature that's all that intriguing. And you can buy modern systems that it's an add-on, or it's not built in. It came out as an add-on after 5 years, but it was never a very popular item, this overhead 3D camera feature.
In fact, you could probably get a Docker image of Windows 8 pretty easily.
By the way, Wired had a very interesting article came out riffing on the blue screen of death. It turns out Microsoft is going to get rid of the blue screen of death in Windows 11. And there was a very nice article in Wired about the origin, how it came to be that and how it came to be called that. And it was a nice, 3-minute read article on BSOD, the history of BSOD. And how people are going to miss it when it's gone.
I will not miss it.
Yeah. I don't use Windows that much, so yeah.
So the summary for me is the antidote to what's going on right now seems to be bring joy, bring love.
And
not that easy, right?
It's not easy, especially at my age and maybe even at your age, to find new things to do where you have the physical energy, the drive, and you can get the reward while you're still able to reap the reward. It's not going to be a 10-year project. When you're young, you take on a job that's a 10-year project. Putting up the space station, it's going to happen in 20 years. I haven't got 20 years to do a project that's going to, I need more instant gratification these days than delayed gratification sort of run out of steam for me now.
How do you know if you're not doing it?
Well, because the things that I would have done for delayed gratification, either I've already done them or the amount of delay time is too long. Like going to grad school, the gratification for that was a career that was going to last 20 years. That's over now.
You and I have been speaking for more than 4 years. That's what? That's definitely a grad school tenure.
Yeah.
Anyway. So as part of this bringing joy and love and empathy and that sort of thing, I've decided one way that I can do it and make it more easy on myself is to practice my violin more.
Yeah.
I don't do that enough. And I think when I was playing a lot, in retrospect, that's when I was happiest.
Yeah. I think it was Horowitz who was still practicing into his 90s. Some
I
piano
think you're
player.
thinking about Pablo Casal's quote.
It's a quote from somebody who was still doing it when he was 96 or
It's
something.
Pablo Casal's, the
He says,
cellist.
I'm still getting, because I'm getting better. Was it Casals? Okay.
Yes.
So Al Einstein played the violin as well.
Yes, and he also said that was his source of happiness.
Yeah.
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 Well, so there's another subtle thing going on with playing a musical instrument. Um, it allows your subconscious to process issues without the censorship of the conscious, because
Yeah.
the conscious is busy manipulating violin or piano or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been said that that's how Einstein solved a number of his issues was he'd simply go in the other room and play the violin for a while and come back with the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I would solve problems while mowing the grass, for example. But back in the day when I mowed the grass.
The shower and the toilet.
Yeah.
And the worst one is driving
Yes.
on a
Yeah, that's a
long road.
problem. That's a bit of a problem. You don't want to get too distracted thinking about something while
Yeah,
driving.
you get home, you're pulling in the garage, and you say, "I have no idea how I got here."
Yeah.
And if I were more coordinated, I'd actually start taking up dance classes. I've always wanted to do that. I've never been a dancer.
I wish I could find something to take up that was realistic at my age that gave the reward satisfaction that I'm sort of shy on.
Hey, Kayla, is there an age beyond which you will not teach?
Um, no, I mean, as long as they don't complain. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? But
I want to be in a competition next month.
well, this one lady had two hip replacements, and I was like, I think you're in the wrong studio because we
Okay.
use our hips. Um, and then but there is an older lady, she's wonderful, and she can keep up sort of, and she just kind of stays in the back, but she absolutely loves it. So no, as long as they aren't complaining. And this other lady came in jeans and full on like socks and shoes, and I told her she needs to take off her socks and shoes, and to next time don't come in jeans. And she looked at me all crazy, and I explained to her that like the way I teach his is a lot more modern than the way other people teach. So yeah, sorry.
No, it's great. I like that answer because one of the quotes, which I'm hoping you can verify, but I don't know it for a fact, is when people are dancing, it's hard to dance with a frown. That and I like that quote. Where actually it goes something like, when people are dancing, they're usually smiling.
I don't know. I
think
mean,
that's true.
I don't know if that's true. Sometimes people get all upset, but then they come back for more. So, you know.
I, as somebody who's not a professional dancer, I think you have to be conscious to remember to smile. It doesn't happen naturally when you're dancing, I don't think.
Huh.
I love
Sammy,
I love pushing people too. That's the best. I make them do it over and over again. You know, I love it. So they never smile around me. So I tell them to.
Okay, I'll have to blow that quote out of my collection then.
Yeah, no one's gonna smile.
I see I have something in common with Sam. We both have itchy back. Is it a back scratcher?
Yeah, it's a Dollar Tree special. Back when it
Yeah.
used to be a real dollar.
That is one of the most valuable tools ever invented.
I just go up to the side of the door frame and rub my back on the side of the door frame.
Oh, the simple things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had itchy skin a bit more than I can recall when I was younger.
Anyway, to go back to the musical thing, a part of it is also that a friend of mine here on the island yesterday reached out again and said, "Hey, would you like to play more duets?" She plays flute. I think I mentioned her before. So I said, "Yes, I'd want to do that again." And she often gets invited to perform at the island farmers market. Jack, did I ever drag you to a farmers market when you visited? I don't think you did. But every week there's at least two of them.
No, we went to a really nice outdoor restaurant that, but I don't recall a farmer's market.
Was it the Kama Beach Cafe? Did it overlook the water?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, that's one of my favorite restaurants.
Oh, yes. It was mine too.
Ah, you got to come back, Jack. We got to go do that again. And any of you who want to come join us. Okay.
Thank you.
In fact, one of the high school buddy friends of mine, he's the one who recruited me to help him and others plan the 50th reunion, which is next week, not next year. We often have our planning sessions there. It's a good place to just sit for a couple hours. And so long as we're not keeping the line long, it's a great place to just sit and enjoy the water, enjoy the trees, enjoy the sun, enjoy the smells, enjoy some good fresh food. Yeah, enjoy, love, enjoyment, compassion, music, food. I'm going to try to do more of that. Which is why I want Kayla to adopt me, by the way. Have you seen some of the food that she posts? Jeez.
I don't know. I had Little Caesars pizza yesterday, and then the other day I had takeout.
I'm not expecting that you do that every night, but geez, you do it frequently enough that it's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Filipino food is some of it is really good.
The funny thing is, I don't cook Filipino food.
Well, that sucks.
I know it does. I'm really picky. My dad used to cook everything from scratch. Um, and he never taught us anything because he didn't have any patience. So unfortunately, I've had to learn from YouTube.
Speaking of which, YouTube is awesome. YouTube is where I've learned so much in the last 2, 3 years. It's incredible.
YouTube has the absolute worst commercials for the dumbest people that ever walked the face of the earth.
That's why I pay for YouTube Premium. I want to get rid of those commercials.
Sam loves YouTube. Just kidding.
It's worth it. Stacey, pay for YouTube Premium. It's worth it.
No, because I need to see what other people are saying.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I want to see that.
Then you want that. Then you want those ads. Okay.
Yeah, I mean I don't, but I do.
Okay.
No, seriously, the political ads are friggin' scary.
You know, there are a bunch of people who are trying to convince me to stay in country. And I keep asking why? What do you see that would compel me to stay? Obviously, some of you are staying, so you must have gone through that reasoning for yourself. But the more I think about it, the more determined I am to actually go overseas or over border, not ruling out Mexico and Canada. So why? I mean, just the whole slate of issues that now face this country, each one being almost insurmountable, but in combination looks near impossible to me. Now there's the other aspect which says, oh well, come on, stay here, make the country better, And I understand that argument. I do. That would be the only reason that I would stay. There are no others, as far as I can tell. And to say, hey, we can turn things around in the midterms, that's still way too long. You see how much damage has already been done in 5 months?
The Supreme Court made it worse. They took away certain judicial powers that were critical.
How long did it take for Germany to rejoin society?
Generation.
Yeah, decades.
Yeah. Yeah, 20 some years, I guess, 20, 30 years.
But can I just point out that the population of our country isn't behaving the way the population of Germany behaved? At least not as far as I could see. I'm not a historian.
Say more.
Well, what I see happening on the ground is not what was happening at the parallel point in history in Germany.
I mean, the protests, like, no,
Yeah. Yes, I'm talking about the protests.
yeah, I think that was a necessary step. Had we not seen a big turnout for that, I'd feel even worse.
The only thing that would satisfy me is a successful impeachment and removal from office. But I don't anticipate that's
Just
going to
one.
happen.
It's got to be dozens of indictments all up and down his administration.
You know, I don't see that happening, but that's what would be needed is a massive cleaning up of the mess.
Will be the
That's
equivalent
going
of
to require a lot of integrity by our politicians, and we don't have a crew of politicians who have any integrity anymore. That's just sort of,
there's a few.
well, yeah. And maybe in
My,
Massachusetts, there's a few.
my greatest concern and what I think is the biggest threat, believe it or not, is our communication system, our media, social media. That to me is if we don't figure out a way to combat that or neutralize it or get around it or create something new, then I feel like, you know, I don't have much hope.
And it's going the wrong way. I have a number of YouTube channels that I regularly watch. And initially, you could watch a 20, 30-minute YouTube video fine. Now I'm getting YouTube ads like every 5 minutes, and they completely disrupt the watching of the video.
Did YouTube Premium, Barry?
Yeah, that's what people say. I haven't really looked into what that costs.
Well, I see some independent media doing good things, but what I don't see is connecting outward to it's the same siloing. I mean, I see some people attempting, like for example, the younger generation, I do see them connecting from like the left wing to working with like people from the bulwark, and the bulwark has reached down to younger people. So there's some movement, up and down that way. But there needs to be more of it. There needs to be more movement and flow, connecting. Like even I know, Sam, you watch the Midas Network, and I like them too, and I was there from the beginning. But again, they're just going to turn into the old media. And go ahead.
I have noticed just in the last, let's say, 3 to 6 months, even Marcellus, those titles are clickbait, uses way too many adjectives. He talks about, oh, this is Trump's catastrophic day, and it turns out to be a nothing burger. Okay. So he's exaggerating and he's lost the objectivity, in
Mm-hmm.
my view.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
He's not reporting just the facts and then bit of implications. He's just overboard with his use of adjectives now. So he's gone squarely to, I mean, you can't apply the word objective to that channel anymore, unfortunately.
When
Yeah.
they were very small, I wrote to them because I was in like their Patreon group. And I said, can you at least, I wanted them to give me a choice of thumbnails or something because I knew I could not share what I want. They had some good information that I couldn't share. No response whatsoever. And there's one brother that bothers me more than the other. I think the other two are probably good, but it's the main brother. I remember the first time he had Jessica Denson on, who she's no longer with them. She went off on her own. And I remember, and this was just intuitively, I was like, this guy's such a sexist. Like I was just like listening to him and I could just see the way he was responding. But they have some good people there and it's like any other place. It's like any other place. There's going to be a mixture of good and bad, but the minute you start to go towards one leader, you're gonna come across problems.
Right.
Go ahead.
On TYT, I'm actually happy that Anna Kasparian is back. I thought she was out for a while, but she seems to be back. She's been quite prominently featured in some recent broadcasts that I've seen, at least. And she's taking a strong stand, and they're letting her do it. So I like that aspect of it, because for a while there, it looked like she was on the way out. Cenk, on the other hand, seems to be behind the scenes now. He doesn't come out and do shows really himself anymore. He's kind of like the MC. He doesn't actually do any of the rants, it seems. Whereas Anna does.
So
But who else? There's Mycelis and then TYT and then who else?
I don't know, but I have an idea for a show that I really want to do, and I wish I knew people in that business. I really want to interview the people who've left MAGA because I've listened to other people do it, but I would do it so differently. And I think it would be so important and so needed.
Yeah, I agree with it. That would be a very good show.
You know anybody?
Well, we could collaborate because, like I said, over a decade, I've had an open invitation to MAGA, any MAGA, who's willing to engage in depth, on that topic. And I've had
They're
like
not
three
coming to you,
takers.
Sam.
What?
They're not coming to you.
I know. I'm trying to go to them, but I've had three takers over the last decade, all of which also turned out to be disappointments. But it's an important engagement model that it'd be good to hear more of those kind of voices. But see, the trivial thing is now there are too many of them that say, I voted for Trump and now, my mother lost her Medicare or whatever. It's just like, I don't want to talk to those people. Those people are too
Oh, I
stupid.
do. Those are the ones I do want to talk to.
Those two people are too stupid for me to talk to. Okay. If they couldn't have seen that coming, I don't want to talk to them. I want to talk to people who actually think he's doing a good job and can tell me why.
Oh, I can give you two people. Right before I got on this call, I saw two people from high school. I didn't even answer. And the other one is so excited over this Supreme Court decision that Jack just referenced. And the other one's, yay! And I just ignored it, but and the one of them is a surgeon, and the other one was like super bright in school too. So these are two smart men that are so friggin' dumb that I just yeah, they are actually funny enough. The people that you want to talk to are the ones that I'm not interested in. I am interested in the ones that you say are dumb because those are the ones like Trump. I like the uneducated. Those are the ones that I think are worthy of speaking to.
What do you think they're going to say, though?
Well, they don't know the questions I'm going to ask. For
Uh,
example, I was listening to this one guy, and now that his workers have been deported and they've been taken away, he's saying how mad he is and that they were good people. I'd like to be able to ask him, so if these were like your family, You know, like how was it that you voted for Trump in the first place? Like I want people to be responsible for their own actions and to be held accountable and have to see, yes, I didn't care about these people that I was calling my family because I was whatever his answer was, whether it be too selfish or too angry or didn't think about it or whatever it was. Yeah, send the dumb people my way.
Go on TikTok. I guess there's a bunch of them.
Well, to for a more important point that I'm always trying to say, but I guess I don't get it out right. I think we need more of this two-way dialogue. Like what we have when we come on a call is a wonderful thing. I am really against this one way where somebody's watching a screen and it's just the one person talking and there's no way to talk back. Barry?
Yeah. I kind of paused when you said I want people to be held accountable because that really raises an interesting question of when you call somebody to account for their behavior, they'll basically give you a reason. And the reason may be I didn't know any better, but although probably won't say that, or I felt like it, but they probably won't say that. But that sort of gets back to um, I'm doing the best I know how. Cut me a break. So I don't really know when you say I want to call people to account. I'm not sure that the best you could come up with is I'll try to do better in the future. If you're lucky, you'll get a commitment to that they'll try to improve. But
That would
most of the
be
time, you won't even get
progress.
that.
But that would be for somebody to say that they would do differently if they had the chance again, to me, that's a win.
Then will they do better? Because I find that people, even when they say they're going to get better, they don't. Even if they try to get better, they just don't get any better. There just seems some phenomenon about how we get stuck in our habits, our ways, our thinking, and our faculties, and our, whatever the shortcomings we have, we just don't manage to overcome them.
The first step is always recognizing it.
Well, the observers will recognize it before the person will admit it to themselves.
Right. And that's why I think that done where there's an audience and where attention and the spotlight is on them, it creates a greater probability that they are going to see something that they may not otherwise see because it's like they're having an inner battle. You know, there may be a part of them that doesn't want to recognize something, but there's another part of them that doesn't want to look foolish in front of an audience.
Yeah,
So putting those,
absolutely.
so I think putting those two things together is a useful thing. Over.
But I also just find that people basically, if they improve at all, most people improve very slowly if they improve at all, especially on things that they're just not good at to begin with. It takes a lot of effort to improve. You've got to have something that you really, really want. So it's like these athletes who want to win the gold medal or something, put an enormous amount of energy for a small improvement so they can get the gold instead of the silver. Most people are not willing to put in that much. Like I can cook, but I don't want to be a chef. It's too much trouble to learn to be a good chef, and then the payoff isn't going to be there. So, I just need enough nutrition to keep my body running. I don't have to be a gastronome.
Sam, can I just say one sentence?
Okay.
Is that a yes or a no?
Yes.
That's not my one sentence. My one sentence is keep in mind the audience too, because the audience can learn something. Over. Sam?
Okay. So this is going to sound callous. It might actually be callous, but others can see that the dead are dead, but the dead don't know that they're dead.
Yeah, yeah. There you
Other
go.
people can see that stupid people are stupid. The stupid people can't see that they're stupid.
There's the problem.
Problem.
Therein lies the problem.
There it is.
Can stupid people see that other people yeah, can stupid people see that other people are stupid? I
Oh,
think they
absolutely.
can.
Absolutely.
So
Because
that's
Kayla
my
apply
point.
that label easily and without consistency and without clarity. That's
Look
what
at how many people Trump calls stupid, including very, very smart people. He just calls them stupid. The mayor, you see what he posted about this new mayoral candidate in New York, and that he's ugly or whatever. I can't remember what he posted the Truth Social on. It was ridiculous.
What I'm suggesting is that seeing a so-called stupid person squirm on a hot seat can help other stupid people get through in a different way.
Well, maybe. I
in my
mean,
experience, they don't squirm. The minute they read something that they cannot explain, they just go ad hominem, they just repeat themselves, they go loud, they get angry, they don't squirm.
yeah. I
Sam,
tend to.
you haven't faced me very much.
There's a reason why we're
I'd
all
love to see
divorced.
those interviews, Stacey. Get one on video.
I would love to. I need support.
Is there a reason why we're all divorced?
Well, I'm an asshole. Okay, that's why I'm divorced.
That's awesome.
And I'm divorced because I'm not a masochist or don't want to be a masochist.
Well,
Jack's married.
ay, ay, ay. Yeah, that's probably a more fun topic, but probably will get louder. Ay, ay, ay.
But yeah, schismogenesis abounds.
No, I've tried enough with right leaning, with right Confederacy flag wavers, Trump button wearers, and they don't squirm. They are absolutely shameless, in my experience. And truth means nothing to them,
Yeah,
and reason doesn't apply to them.
yeah. Hopelessness and cynicism. There you have it.
See, to me, that's just one group of them. And they're the bad, like they're the group I don't want to deal with. But I don't, yeah.
There's a Saint Jude, this patron saint of hopeless causes. I mean, there's a reason we have a patron saint, or the Catholics have a patron saint of hopeless causes. There's a lot of hopeless causes.
As somebody who has been very badly fooled in her life, me, and I consider myself a smart person, I know how easy it is when there's an organized attempt to fool you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I don't count all those people out because there are people that are not as smart as me, but looked up to other people that they trusted, believed them. And I can't really fault them for that.
Trust but verify. And if you verify, you discover some percentage of the time, maybe more than half the time, that what they said wasn't reliable. But you didn't know enough to know it wasn't reliable.
If
Sounded
you,
plausible.
right, if you guys were talking about something that supposedly happened the other day in space or whatever, I would have no reason to doubt that what you were saying was the truth.
Yeah. It's like Gavin Newsom is suing the Fox News because they
Right.
played a video that was an old video as if it was current, and that made Trump sound like he was telling the truth when in fact he was lying.
And the truth of it is, he's probably only suing to get the publicity, which is great because that's really what's needed.
Well,
That's the way to fight these MAGA heads.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to diagnose intent. That's really hard to diagnose.
Well, but here's the thing, Barry. That's been Trump's game plan from the beginning. Cared about what would be proven in the end. He just cares about what gets said first. I mean, think about Obama's birth certificate. I
Oh, yeah.
remember arguing about this with my mother years ago, and her answer to me was what I'm sure many people, he wouldn't say such a crazy thing if he couldn't back it up.
But he can't back up most of what he says.
Exactly, but that's the point. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It matters what gets printed.
You know? And the fact that even the fact checkers don't succeed in overthrowing the falsehoods. The falsehoods persist despite the fact checkers who are, very conscientious.
I could just say something in case anybody that's making memes ever watches this. Stop posting the fake quote first because they keep doing that. All you do is reinforce that the fake quote is real. First, post what you have to say about this being fake, then show what's fake.
I used to debunk face quotes, and I just stopped doing it. It's just too much work, and it doesn't change the outcome. The fake quotes just keep recurring.
Well, but the way some people present it makes it worse.
Well, that may be true, but after a while, you realize it's a hopeless cause. Go ahead, Sam.
I didn't say what most people say I said. Signed, Albert Einstein.
Exactly. Yeah. Joking about is probably more effective than just plain out debunking. I mean, most of the things that Trump does, they joke about on the late night TV shows, and that's probably more effective than simply, doing a fact check piece on the back page.
I think you're right.
And I'd like to get better at, debunking with humor, but that's an art and a skill that some people get paid big money for, and I'm just a piker, an amateur piker at it.
Yeah. So my own opinion on that is, I think Kimmel does a reasonable job. I think Oliver does a reasonable job. I'm disappointed now in Colbert and Jon Stewart.
Oh, excuse me.
They may be switching gears because what they've been doing isn't sufficiently effective. I used to write essays first and then do satires and parodies as a last resort. A lot of people are doing satires and parodies as a first resort, and then they're doing the serious stuff secondarily. Well, does it matter which order you do them in? I don't know. Sometimes, maybe.
And for the record, I do like what Saturday Night Live is doing on occasion.
Yeah. They're off for the summer now, aren't they now?
They're what? Yeah.
Are they off for the summer now?
Yeah.
That's what I think they are.
But Seth, I don't think he's effective either. Who else is out there?
I don't know, there's 4 of them. Aren't there 4 or 5 of them?
Seth, Colbert, Stewart, Kimmel, Oliver. That's 5.
Yeah. I thought Philomena Kunk was pretty effective with her unique brand of humor. But I don't think she's much on anymore, if at all. But even when satire and parody and comedy fails, then now what do you do? That was always sort of the last resort. Other than Civil War, which I don't think is.
I think it will come to Civil War. I think.
Well, yeah. See, if everything, yeah.
Or an invasion. Okay, one of the two.
Or migration. People will just end up leaving this country and going to New Zealand or Costa Rica or someplace.
Well,
what's Denmark, or what was the one you wanted to go to? Not Denmark. Norway, was it?
Finland?
Finland, yeah, Finland.
Finland's a great place. It turns out Italy's a decent place. Greece is a decent place. France is a decent place. Portugal is a great place.
At one time, cyberspace was a decent place, not anymore.
And
you guys know that some people can't afford to go out to dinner, right?
Well, they'll be more able to go out to dinner there than here.
How would they get there?
I don't go out to dinner either, but not because of money, just because there's no pleasure in it.
Yeah, in places like Thailand and Vietnam, good meals on the street can cost $1 to $2 US.
Yeah, street food is really big in Asia. If you go to YouTube, you can see tons and tons of videos of street food preparation in Asia.
Yep.
I want to chip in and buy a town.
By a town.
Do you have
I
one in
do.
mind?
No, I don't. I need greater minds to help me find the right location. I'm looking for a place that might be flooded soon so we could have a nice pond to build a park around.
You know where there's millions of places that you can actually pick up for cheap?
Where?
Ghost towns.
Japan.
Oh, really?
No, I want to be able to drive there from here.
Well, that you didn't say that up front. But yeah, in Japan, it's a known phenomenon. They're called akiyas. They're abandoned houses that the government or the seller will let you have for very, very cheap, so long as you plan to live there and renovate it.
Tatami.
Yes. I love it. He jumps into my lap like 2, 3 times a day now. I love it.
Wants his back scratched, just like you.
Yep.
You scratch each other's back.
He wants his throat and neck and ears scratched.
You should have gotten a pet long ago, Barry.
Um,
That was your mistake.
well, not necessarily. We had a dog when I was a kid. Turned out I didn't know it, but I was allergic to animal dander, and I had a perpetual runny nose until I went to college. I'd come home for vacation and start up again, and finally realized I'm allergic to animal dander.
You could have got a little poodle.
A golden doodle does not shed.
Well, see, fear and ignorance. Didn't have enough knowledge to know what would make sense. And then when I was working, it was unfair because I would work long hours
Right.
and barely come home just in time to sleep. So you can't have a pet if it's going to be stuck home alone for 18 hours a day or however long it is.
No, when you retired, though, you should have. But anyway,
Best kind of pet to have is your neighbors.
yes, I agree.
Do you take him for walks?
Not so much, but when they take their dogs for a walk, I used to go out, the golden retrievers, and greet the golden retrievers when my neighbors were taking them out for a walk.
Yeah, biased view, golden retrievers are the best breed of dog.
Yeah.
And I say that knowing Kayla's online.
And I didn't find out until I was an adult that I'm not allergic to golden retrievers. But by that time I'd learned that it was I was in my 50s or 60s.
Well, I hope that we all have, assuming that Beth joins us tomorrow, I hope we can really introduce her to the breadth of conversations we have here. And there's the ostensive reason why we have this, and then there's other associated reasons for why we have this. So I'd be curious to see what she thinks.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
How long have you known her?
Less than a week.
Oh, okay. So you don't really have a deep mental model of her personality.
No reading whatsoever. Yeah.
All I know is that, the first half a dozen posts on her Facebook page were complaints about the government.
Well, that's a good starting point.
Well, it's a problem that nobody has a solution that seems to be working, at least not among us. It's just getting worse.
So what is this 3.5% that a lot of people talk about? They say 3.5% is enough to cause change. And I don't quite understand how that works.
I don't understand what can you unpack that 3%?
There are people that say we need these protests to draw out at least 3.5% of the population.
Oh,
And then when that happens, usually that is a precursor or indicator that regime change is likely, or I interpret it that way.
oh, I see the point. I didn't know that number where it comes from, or
Yeah, I don't know the mechanics of it. No, I don't even know the causality or correlation of it.
well, I wouldn't take it as gospel until I saw some research on it.
Yeah.
Because it also probably depends on the issue. Some issues are more pressing than others, regardless of the number of people who protested.
Well, July 4th is coming up, and I think it's going to happen before we meet again next time, right?
Is it late next
July
week?
Friday.
4th is Thursday,
Right? Is it Friday of next week?
right? Thursday or Friday. Yeah, so it will have come and gone by the time we speak. Not tomorrow, but after this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's Friday of next week.
So I do think there are another set of protests on the 4th. And I think that will definitely be another opportunity to show force in numbers, strength in numbers. I'm going to be out there.
But I mean, I look at people like Rachel Maddow, who does yeoman's work in, you know, characterizing, the infamy of the Trump administration.
Yep.
She's been doing it, and she's not the only one. There's this one, what's the Amy Goodman, is that her name? She's been doing it for years. And you go, these people have made it their lifeblood.
Yep.
And or what's this one that you like, the one that's on MSNBC after Rachel?
Lawrence
O'Donnell, yeah. I mean,
he's
these
good.
guys, they're fat, probably they're the best, of their kind. But nothing changes. If they can't do it, what are you and I going to do?
Oh, no, wait a minute. We have like 29 ex-Fox broadcasters currently in the administration. So
Well,
at least somebody said, oh, that's a reasonable career path. Okay, I'm not saying that is, but you never really know, right? Somebody decided that Hegseth could be handed, all the nuclear codes and command of the world's most outrageously supplied military. Just by being on Fox News. So I do think that people who know how to put the case together are valuable. Maddow is good, by the way, for the record. She's a good representative of Stanford University, unlike that embarrassment of a human being, Josh Hawley. I don't know why he was ever graduated there. And Lawrence O'Donnell, I really like what he does. He does a very good job at what he does. And I have other dark thoughts that I should not voice out loud. Yeah. Well, if there's a lull in the conversation, I have a set of questions that I always return to in case that we want to talk about things other than what's currently on the table.
Go for it.
If there was an AI bot, an AGI, an LCM, LLM, GPT that has access to your entire social media history, would you, in any context, in any use case, allow it to behave or act on your behalf?
I would.
I would.
I would ask it to rewrite a lot of my stuff for the current audience and the current situation. Because a lot of what I wrote is 20, 30 years old.
Okay, so starting with that, you might let it, write some response emails, write some response social media posts or comments?
I would simply update a lot of my blog posts to make them more succinct and more timely, and maybe reach a broader audience than I was reaching back when I first wrote them.
Jack, Kayla, Stacey?
I would not allow an AI to do jack shit for me.
What do you mean by that? I'm just kidding.
I I posted something to Open Global Mind the other day about how um, UPenn or one of those universities did a study that where they compared those who used AI to do their research and those who did their research with Google. And it showed very clear and convincing to me evidence that when you don't put your own skin in the game, you lose. The people that used AI researchers to get their answers um, basically did better on their homework, but flunked the test. And those who did used Google did not do as well on their research, but they were more independent in the way they spoke, and they passed the test. Um, I wouldn't let AI do anything for me.
I would have it make videos. I would take some of my text material and say, turn this into a video with talking heads or voiceover with visuals where I had nothing but just pure text.
Okay.
Turn them into YouTube videos.
Kayla?
Hmm. Can you repeat the question again?
Like if there was a bot, an AI that had access to all of your Facebook history and all your social media history, and it could learn everything, it could grab about you, are there cases where you would let it act on your behalf?
Mm, I don't know. Probably not.
Okay. So Stacey, and then I'll ask part two of the question.
Good answer, Kayla.
So I thought when you first asked the question, I thought I heard you say Facebook. Take all of the information
Right.
from
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah. It did include Facebook and all your social media history. Yeah, I did say that.
Okay. So in regards to Facebook, I stand by the answer yes. And the reason for that is similar to Barry. But early on, part of the reason that I started using Facebook is that I was trying to get myself to write more without having to, air quotes, work. And what I realized is that Facebook provided me prompts that I needed for small pieces of writing. So everything that I've ever put on Facebook, I stand by those opinions. And I think they're pretty consistent. Um, that's not to say if we found out a story, don't, yeah, take that with some flexibility. But for the most part, I have always presented myself as genuinely as possible on Facebook. That being said, my wish or my intention was that one day I'd be able to go back and collect all these smaller pieces and put them into something larger. So for me, just with Facebook, yes, I would want to see that happen.
Okay, thank you. By the way, Stacey, it is possible. You can get Facebook to say, download me everything I've ever done on Facebook. And in theory, they will do that for you.
I don't
I've had
even.
that done twice. Okay.
Did
I've, ta-
you really?
I've taken backups of everything that I had posted on Facebook. They
I
ship it
should
to you
go.
in zip files.
That might be you know what? Now might be the time to do it because as much as I hate I would have the help I need to edit.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Barry, you had a hand up.
Yeah, because I can't carry a tune or play an instrument, but I wrote lyrics to song parodies, I would ask it to bring the song parodies to life with singing and music and cartoon animation, because I simply have no ability to express those song parodies using my non-existing musical talent.
Mhm. Okay. So may I ask part two of this question? So the reason I asked part one of the question is the following. If AI, the way it works today or maybe next year, were as good as it is 50 or 75 years ago, I would sit down with an AI version of my grandfather and ask him, so what really happened in Taiwan? What did you do when the hospital got bombed? How did you feel when your first daughter died? How did you feel when your 1-year-old first son succumbed to disease at 1 year old? I would love to be able to have that conversation with him. So how would you feel then if an AI were able to know all of this about you for your grandkids or your great grandkids, people you don't even know yet? Forget your kids, okay? Your kids, don't even consider them. But how about your grandkids, the great grandkids, and maybe their offspring? How about if they wanted to interact with you, Stacey, or with me, or with Kayla, 50, 60, 75 years from now? Because otherwise, they would not get to know you.
I
How would you
don't
feel
think it
about it?
could. I don't think it could unless it asked me those questions. I don't think, yeah, like how would it know how your grandfather felt at a certain time? I don't think it would have that capability.
You could make it up, but it wouldn't be
Yeah,
Okay,
it
right.
would.
maybe my grandfather is an exception because he wrote memoirs,
Well, that's it.
hundreds
Unless
of
you're
pages of memoirs.
so unless it
But no,
specifically asks the question.
but suppose this thing were able to compile all of your contributions, all of your posts today. Now, obviously, there wasn't Facebook 50, 75 years ago, but today, some of us have actually posted quite a bit that reveal how we think or how we feel about the administration or what we think about, systems thinking or how we feel about child rearing or how we feel about, the way dance is taught or how we feel about the way, music is taught or how we feel about the way collaboration works with information technology. Some of us have made those posts on Facebook, on email, and other forums. So I do think that there's a number of sources where an AI, a GPT, or now LCM, you guys come across this term LCM?
You mentioned it last week, but I can't remember what
Yeah.
the C stands for.
Jack, have you come across this term, the LCM?
Oh, concept.
Yes, not large language model. These are now large concept models.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll try to recall what that means next time you
Right.
mention
So rather than doing, vector databases on words, now they're able to do these associations on concepts, which
it.
is a natural evolution in my mind.
That's beginning of model-based reasoning, I suppose,
It's a step.
which they haven't had up till now.
Anyway, so I'm positing that it would be cool. Not everybody would choose to do this, but some people might choose to say, yeah, I give my kids and grandkids and great grandkids, an opportunity to get to know me, even though I didn't write memoirs, but at least I have a lot of activity on social media and email and others that could then give them a glimpse of what I thought, how I felt about certain things. Over.
I think people are already making money off doing that, publishing book for other people based on that.
But you
I mean,
can't interview a book, though. That's the problem. I think that the possibility of a bot and an LCM interacting with my grandkids, or assuming I have grandkids, I have no grandkids today, okay? But some of you have grandkids, or are likely than others to have grandkids. So that's a scenario. That's a use case. I was just trying to put in front of you as a Gedanken experiment.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that would be for me. I would prefer seeing actual videos of the person. I don't think that there's enough room for nuance. No, I really don't. I think you could take anything that I've written and say, well, I can tell you felt this way. And I'm sure you won't have it 100% correct.
Right, but without it, it's 0%, right? So is it 0 or 25, or 50 or 75 or 95 versus
Well,
100?
I mean, if I asked you to turn an essay into poetry, um, or a parable, anecdote, I'd expect there'd be some loss of information, but it would be more entertaining. It would reach a bigger audience. And that sort of makes sense. I mean, Stacey and I played with that, turning an essay into poetry or lyrics or story or children's uh, stories. I mean, something that's presenting in an alternate media. That makes a lot of sense.
That I like. Yeah.
You know, because I can't draw. I mean, I can't do music. I can't draw. If I turn something into artwork, yeah, sure, why not? Come up with illustrations that go with the prose, sure. Cartoon animations and whatnot.
But Sam, to your point, what I think would be really interesting would be taking the real one and the AI generated one and seeing if they disagree in any places, or almost like a which one's the real one kind of a competition.
The Turing test for the AI reprisal. Which is better, the AI version or I on some of my blog posts, I asked AI to summarize it, and then I put the AI summary in as a comment underneath it, or the AI's alternate version of it, and you could see whether the AI's reprise of it was better than the original.
See, I think the actual real video of the real Stacey would be available for this new bot, this new LCM. So I don't see how that couldn't improve at least the accessibility of it. And certainly since the original material is still available, it's there verbatim.
We'll put it this way, if it was a collaboration, then it could work. But I think that the living human needs to be a part of that collaboration.
Let me see if I understand you. So if, let's say now, before I die, hopefully it's, 10, 15, whatever years in the future, I was interacting with this bot, the
Hmm.
Sam bot. And I was saying, well, when it comes to this topic, make sure you catch this nuance and not that nuance, or this implication, but not that implication. This word means something in my context, so don't use that context, blah, 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 blah. And if you're able to do this and like train the Sam bot or the Stacey bot or the Barry bot or the Jack bot or the Kayla bot, okay, for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decades. So you could actually do a little bit of personalization, customization, quality control, which I think is all possible, right? Progress here is very, very fast. I would say, how is that any different than me trying to talk to some, grad student from Stanford and try to say, okay, so here's what I think about systems programming. Here's what I think about Clojure. Here's what I think about Collaborology. And they trying to approximate it. I would say that, to me, there's a higher chance that the bot actually retains what I say more than a human piece of protoplasm. Over.
I would want to ask both a few ethical questions and see if both come up with the same answers.
What question will you ask it?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, this is like right. I like it. Like I don't know.
I would say which version is more authentic, not in the sense of replicating the original, but more authentic in terms of its objective authenticity for a general purpose audience.
Yeah.
So let's say for purposes of the experiment, the LCM or whatever we call it now really does try to do a very good job capturing everything that you posted and try to make sure that it did the best job it could representing you. Arguably, that's what people are trying to do now, right? They're trying to take these bots and make it represent the best of all possible responses to any prompt that it's given.
Yeah. Or a better job. I wouldn't want to do a better job than my original.
There you go. I was about
Well,
to follow that up, right?
Yeah.
Because Barry, you say, hey, you're not great in conversation. You're better asynchronous. Well, suppose
Right.
you had a Barry bot that actually was good in conversation and didn't have to wait till next week to come back with a more written version of a response.
And it would know how long to wait before nominating an answer.
but
It would wait
let,
just
Confusing
exact
it, by the way.
optimal amount of waiting time.
let me just add real quick, and Kayla, I see your hand just went up. I just want to say real quick that I'm not arguing. I mean, I actually think that bots sometimes understand me better than people. So I'm not saying that they don't have a better ability to understand. I think they actually do when it comes to complexity. What I'm saying is that they don't understand me better than I understand me. And I'll let it go.
Arguably,
Paying
no
attention.
grad student is going to either, right? Kayla?
Kayla, go ahead.
Um, I I don't know if Facebook or any of the social media that you mentioned, Sam, would be a really good representation of somebody. I would not want any of the, my kids' kids and their kids to utilize my social media as like, oh, that's how grandma, great grandma was. Because what I post on there is for pure entertainment. I have thought long and hard of just not being on Facebook and not being on social media, but unfortunately, I feel tied to it more so because of my job, more so because like I share my photos and things with people. Unfortunately, it's a way for people to connect. Um, it's an easy, popular way for people to connect. So a lot of the things that I post there are very shallow. I would want my ancestors to see my struggle, and learn from it. That's why I think memoirs and stuff, yeah, not everybody likes to do that, but I would not want a bot that has like none of that emotional intelligence to be able to go into my life and say, oh yeah, she was perfect. Like, yeah, dude, of course, But what made me perfect are all of the imperfections that nobody sees. Sam, you witnessed, like, I probably scared you with some of my honesty a couple of days ago. And I know that I do the same to other people. They get turned off by that. But I want, my generation or the generations after me to go, okay, these are imperfections. She worked through that. She was able to laugh about it, and there you go, take it as you will. I would not want them to see, oh, this perfect life of being the perfect mom, and oh my God, look at all of this success. You know, there's stepping stones to that. And so, yeah, I think I'd be leaning more to, I'm gonna, bond with Jack on the idea of that, not wanting bots to just comb my life over.
I appreciate that. I really like that answer. Let me augment the question though, because to ask the question, it was easy for people to sort of get it the way I asked it the first time. But really, the implication is if your life were available, let's say your curriculum for Ori Tahiti classes, the way you parent with Max and Damien, the way you choose, how to plan the meals for the week, the way you plan how to deal with Damien with your ex, all of these things. If it was able to see your life with whatever artifacts you keep, whether it's in your calendar or with just scraps of, yellow sticky notes or whatever, if it had access to that and was able to then sort of connect the dots, that's what I'm positing. There was and before I go and open it up again, there was a guy named Nathan Myhrvold who was a VP at Microsoft that I think a decade or 15 years ago started wearing a video camera on his chest 24/7, or maybe not when he was sleeping. But anyway, he was actually doing that because he believed in a future where some of that material could be used to reconstruct his life in a number of ways. That's, to me, that was very Engelbartian of him. Okay. I actually spoke to him only one time in my life. But anyway, so I'm not just saying Facebook is the only source. I'm just saying, imagine that you had pieces of your life, aspects of your life, whether it's an email or Facebook, or whether it's conversations or GCC conversations or whatever, that could then be aggregated to come up with some representation of you, your life, your thoughts, your behavior, your thinking, your responsive, your communication style. That's what I was trying to posit. Because, AGI, ACI, LCMs are only going to get quote unquote better. And they're already pretty darn impressive already. So that was really the thrust of the way I was asking the question. Okay, over.
I think Myhrvold used to be a voice for Stephen Hawking.
Oh, interesting. I didn't
That
know
I
that.
think that's where he got his start. Right? If I have it right, yes.
You spell his last name?
It's MMYRVOLD.
RVOLD.
There's an H in there somewhere, and I've always had trouble figuring out where the H goes. Yes, there is an H in Mirvold.
Well, it would either be after the M or it would have to be by the hold by
Oh,
the
all right.
H by
Let me
the
look it up now.
VH.
Virhold, VYRMYR. Uh,
MYHRVOLD.
Are you looking it up or are
yeah,
you
yeah,
guessing?
that's it.
I'm getting it. I just put a search in YouTube and that's what
Yeah,
comes up.
yeah. I always forget exactly where the H goes, but there was an H. That much I did recall.
Between the Y and the R.
Okay.
Hmm.
So anyway, yeah. So I'm basically saying if we had the ability to essentially have a time capsule of ourselves for our progeny, that's the question I'm putting on the table. But I had to take a few steps to get there.
Time capsules are good. I had my hand up and then I put my hand down because I felt like I needed to say, I felt like I wasn't finished. Not to anybody's,
I apologize.
mistake or anything, but um, when I listened to you, Sam, I wanted to give it some thought. But my initial thought was, isn't that the whole human experience, though? The and here's what I'm thinking right now. I don't want AI to make me dumber. And sometimes I feel like it has. I've used AI quite heavily these days on grant writing. And I realize I need to offset that and start reading, start with what is already in my head. And if I am truly on a time crunch and I just can't figure it out, that I've got to, that's when I use AI. So that was another thought that I had, like, what is it really doing to our brain? You know? So that's just like I feel like human experience is just that, just figuring shit out. I mean, I know we're in an awful time period right now and we want other outside forces. We want AI to help, and it can. I'm just kind of questioning that whole ethical standpoint of AI.
This is why I said AI is the new India.
Mm.
No offense at all to Indians, none whatsoever.
Yeah, I honestly, as much as I complain, I love life. I actually, I'm very blessed. I always keep thinking that something terrible is going to happen because I've been so blessed, and it's you know it, I'm human. But that's the thing, yeah.
It's a great way to live.
Yeah. Like, um, seeing my kids online and realizing that's the new norm, it has just got me kind of pausing and thinking, and hoping and having faith of like the future generation and how they view life. I don't want, I hope that my kids look at their life as being blessed and full of love and abundance and happiness, regardless of the challenges that we have. I don't know if an AI can say that to anybody.
Here's how I would answer that question, if it was a question. Imagine a stay-at-home person who never traveled the world and yet read all these travel logs, watched all these YouTube travel videos, and just sort of got familiar with how people talk about travel and talk about meeting people and talk about experimenting with new food and whatever. Now, this person who never traveled could pretend to speak like someone who's been to these places, right? They could regurgitate a lot of the same, you know, rhythms, the same feel, the same words, the same patterns, and they could pretend that they did travel. And to me, that's what AI is doing. They don't actually have the real experience, but they've read all this material and they can pretend pretty damn well.
Book learning.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, book learning instead of street learning.
Yeah. Stacey's got her hand up.
Yeah, I have a question, and I don't know, maybe Barry or Jack, but Barry maybe. Yeah, years ago, we were promised, or I thought growing up as a kid, that I was going to pick up my landline and be able to see somebody on the other end. For me, at this point, the only thing valuable about the computer for me are these calls right here. That's how I feel. If I had, which I don't even have a landline anymore, but if I had that landline where I picked up the phone and I was able to see you, I'd have no other need for a computer. So I want to know when that decision was made for the phone company not to go further along with that research and why.
It was basically in the 70s because in those days we still had copper line into the house and there wasn't enough bandwidth on it. And we didn't get the bandwidth until the internet came along with fiber optic, where the infrastructure had enough bandwidth to support it. And by that time, it made more sense to do it on the computer because it was a better terminal device than the telephone. It didn't make any sense to adapt the telephone to become a computer so you could do video.
Oh, okay. So it was the copper wiring.
It was the limited bandwidth. You remember when the internet first came out, you were on dial-up. You were lucky to get
I remember.
56 bits per second, which is not good enough for video.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I really want, it would have been such a nice thing had we been able to do that. I think things would be different now.
We were working, I'd say Bell Laboratories were working on picture phone starting, I think, in the 70s. And it just never came to fruition because the cost of the picture phone and the limited bandwidth and just made it not feasible.
That's such a shame.
Oh, wasn't it 70s or 80s where actually France had it first on their public phone system, Minitel?
That I couldn't tell you.
I think they did. So
Yeah.
they actually had it way before the US did, even before the internet took off, I believe.
I don't know what bandwidth they had available. All I know is that your copper telephone line was about 3 kilohertz, which was, if you're lucky, 56 kilobits.
Well, it's capable of more, right? It's just the way that we modulated the signal on those copper lines. And it was just stuck because it was a national standard, wasn't it? It carried way better than 4K.
If you're on a short distance in the city, when you had a very short copper line, yes. If you're in a suburbs or rural where the lines are longer, then the bandwidth falls off pretty quick.
I just think that social networks would have developed so much more differently. And I think it would have been more positive.
It's not for lack of trying, it's just that the technical issues and the timing compared to the development of the internet and computers and the internet got there more effectively first.
I think it's interesting that you have that thought because to me, it almost entirely reflected exactly what happened. And I don't see that it would have happened very differently. Skype was around, way, way, way before Zoom was, you know, and Skype was video phone pretty much. And
But he used the internet as the
that's right.
medium. The internet had
Other
more
than being on the
bandwidth.
copper wire, it was pretty much what, video phoning was supposed to be. I think that was the vision.
We did
Right.
get, we did get DSL, digital subscriber line, which was higher bandwidth than the audio, but it wasn't available uniformly. You had to be on
Horribly unreliable, horribly unreliable.
and you had to be on a very short, you had to be on a relatively short length copper line. I could get it here because my central office is practically walking distance. But if you were a few miles, then you couldn't get DSL.
Can I interrupt this conversation
Please do.
to rift on, or not rift, but just to follow up on what Stacey was saying? I really love that point of view. What I was thinking is, in terms of education, with social media and easy access to information, which is fantastic, it's also led to a lot of laziness. Connecting with one another, being able to see their face, along with hearing their voice is wonderful. And I think that if we, slowed down enough to just establish that connection, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but anyways, I'll go back to the whole educational standpoint of that too. We wouldn't be so lazy about education if we didn't have information given to us so fast. Life would have been so much more different, if those who wanted to get educated could go to the correct places, like the universities. Would the news or media be a lot more responsible? Probably. Anyways, I'll just wrap that up because I haven't fully been able to put my thoughts into my words. I thought I could, but over.
I feel that every day. You guys, I got to get off. Hopefully I'm going to try to stop on for at least a little bit tomorrow.
Thanks, Stacey.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shall we call it a day?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Unless
Great. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow.
all right.
Yep. Sounds
Have a good
good.
one.